Well, greetings everybody. Welcome to our King's channel. I did want to bring a quick update here on the $10,000 reward to contact Elon Musk for my offer. Will it be you? Now that's even more of a question whether it'll be you, because I did make an addendum, as you can see down here in the description, right over here, where I added this here. I encourage you all to take a look at it. Wow, I just finished the recording. I'm starting to do the video editing, and I remembered that I forgot to tell you to look forward to the next video that I do believe we're going to be discussing Lazarus and Father Abraham's bosom, that it has nothing to do with heaven, how it's just a parable. And in Luke 16, please give it a view before we get to it in the next video and see if you can figure out what it's actually saying. Because I'm going to bring it out in light, and you might be able to see it now that I bring it out for you to take a look at, but I've also brought out this video or its subject matter long ago in videos past, but I think it's something that needs to be brought out again because there's been a lot of comments on other people's posts where people want to actually think, that you're going to go to heaven like Lazarus did. Of all the parables that there is, that's the one that they don't want to believe is truly a parable at all. They want to believe that's actual and factual, and then their imaginations go all over the place from there. But anyway, tune into the next video to see that, and you could astound your friends with the truth that's in the scriptures the next time y'all get together for a Bible study, or just bored and can't think of what else to talk about. Talk about it. Now let's jump back in where you can see the invisible hands of my King at work. Though it may also be invisible hands of the wicked and evil spirits too, that bring all these things to pass for our King's honor and glory. So look for those invisible hands in what you hear. Take it away, Al-Yahnai. Because the more I think about it, I'm thinking that anybody that can or does put this video into somebody else's hand, who puts it into somebody else's hand, that ends up getting it to somebody who does the investigation. And after, of course, I'm awarded what is already rightfully mine, just bound up because the court has my actual contract being held in litigation where it shouldn't have been to begin with. It should have been granted because it was a default judgment that was set forward and brought forth all these things that, as I had mentioned down here in this email, that I do believe I'll go ahead and pin here. So come to the video, go ahead, read the comment, but I did want to show what it was speaking of here in Enoch chapter 104 verse 2 that I wrote to them. It says, "Be hopeful, because formerly you have pined away through evil and toil." And this is speaking to me, as Enoch in this chapter here describes my life in detail, and my King confirmed it. He let me know that this was about me, and this is when he first revealed to me that I was definitely of 143,999 brothers of mine out there. And together we are the 144,000. Enoch here is speaking to me especially. Not all of our brothers are going to go through these things that took place. But keep in mind, if you watch this video that I put this comment on, if you watch it, then you already know that Richard Sullivan, a public servant, trespassed on my property, put my 6-month-old Rottweiler into my home, dousing the home with around 6 or 7 gallons of kerosene and lighting a match on it. Burned my dog to death in my house. And then when I told the Board of Building Standards Committee meeting, for and on the record, because those public meetings were taped, there was an audio tape, and I believe they even had video of that meeting. And I said that Richard Sullivan did what he did. He was standing there and he never said he didn't, but boy, he was upset. A month later, after I had permission to actually rebuild my house, if I just got rid of all the other debris on the property and all the bad stuff, the burnt stuff and everything that was in the house, and started to work on it. Well, I discovered that it was a stone house. I already knew that, but I had discovered that it was so hot that the mortar in between the stones was all crumbling, and so it had to come down. So I had friends over. We had a really great barbecue, and we took every single stone of that place. We swept and mopped the foundation even. Prior to the 30 days, I was allowed to just clean up the debris and start rebuilding the house. Well, we cleaned up the debris, we cleaned up the house. There was no burnt house there for them, even though in the background up here was the Abilene Reporter news story, and I believe this was on the first page, but no longer of the archives, because they realized they were part of this fraud, therefore part of the conspiracy, so they removed it from their archives. If it wasn't for this Cult Education Institute up here that was monitoring me, and others from the House of Yahweh, and they seen this, they're the ones that have this available online. But you can't get this article from the Abilene Reporter News anymore because it's shown in there they're part of the conspiracy. And I also billed them and technically own the newspaper as well. As the city of Abilene is the bill that you had 10 plaintiffs, 10 city employees coming against me trying to make disappear that bill. I mean, these people put their careers on the line, had a judge backing them up. The assistant city attorney for the city of Abilene, I had her on the witness stand. I proved her to have brought forth aggravated perjury, and I told the bailiff, I said, bailiff, arrest this woman, take her to jail for aggravated perjury and contempt of this court. And the bailiff's like, and I looked at the judge and I said, Judge, I move you to move your bailiff to arrest this woman and take her to jail for aggravated perjury and contempt of your court. And he was like, he didn't know what to do. So he changes the subject, does some other rigmarole. She gets off the witness stand and she actually resigned from the attorney's office. And she fled. I believe she moved out of state, or she at least moved out of the county. But she ran away, and the judge protected all these felons and everything, There is none of this equality under law. So I wanted to let everybody know that here on the ABC 7 News I-Team, here yesterday, and they run an article that really didn't catch my interest because I already seen like 2 others that had brought out information about this sheriff department sending out its deputies and senior officers there to harass some fella that makes Batmobiles, okay? But the other ones that I'd watched didn't seem as professional as this video appeared to be when I was out there watching my Roku. And I watched it and thought, well, that's all right. But then it got to the ending of it, where as you can see right there, it says, need a story investigated? You can give them a call at 1-888-40-I-TEAM. And of course, they allege that you could send them an email at abc7news.com/I-Team. And I tried it and it don't work. I even tried with just abc7news.com. And I was getting frustrated because as stated down here in the comments of my initial reward that I did make the addendum to here, and I suppose I should read it. It says, an addendum amending this contractual agreement between the one collecting the reward and Mr. Elon Musk, and the modifications thereof. This contractual agreement between all parties as the offer stands at this immediate time right now. However, in the event that an investigation were to take place prior to Mr. Elon Musk being involved, then the author within the video becomes null and void, excepting for the one who does initiate an investigation, and then the reward will increase per my discretion, period. This addendum was created by my Al-Yahnai Hawkins' own hand here on 8/3/2022, and fully edited on or about 2:07 p.m. upstate New York time. And then I hit the send button, but not to ABC 7 News, I-Team and such, but I actually had to go down here to their business inquiries right there at kgo-tv.programming@abc.com, because every time I tried to send off the email to them that I've put here pinned, and I do encourage you to go read it, my email said it couldn't send because the email I was trying to send to wasn't an email. Okay, so I ended up sending it to their business room, and you can see why. I did make them offers, Tesla and cash and all sorts of things, but I didn't explain to them the importance of wine, my friends, you know. As you can see up here, this was dated. I encourage you to go take a look online. Just put in there, sect member threatens to seize city's property, and that was a lie right from the start because it was my property. I did a notary protest. I had a default judgment on the men and women of the city of Abilene as well as the city of Abilene for over $1 billion. That was back in July 26, 2003. The actual contractual agreement is actually older than that. Now please understand, with just $1 billion, and it was more than $1 billion at that time, and written into that contractual agreement that caused 10 city employees to put their entire reputations, their careers, and everything else on the line, knowing there'd be a district judge of the 104th District Court, Taylor County, Texas, sitting there to defend them to make sure they didn't go to jail. But I brought out how that judge, instead of being just a referee, was actually a co-conspirator with the 10 felonious plaintiffs who filed the fraud in the court to begin with. And that he was to a co-conspirator, and I was explaining a whole lot of where he was committing all sorts of felonies as well. He got up from his bench, ran into his chambers, and locked himself in the room. Now, why would you think he did that? Because he knew I didn't have no attorney there to represent me. I had no agent of the court there to do that. I had the best attorney of all, my Heavenly Father's Son. And I proved there was a misappropriation of public funds where you had 10 plaintiffs using public and federal funds to file a known fraud into the court, the Texas District Court. But people don't want to hear that. They can't hear these things. They even filed a fraud in a federal court, and why not? They're trying to protect their billions of dollars. And again, my friends, consider, this was back in July 26, 2003. Go ask a accountant somewhere, you know, say, hey, if you had $1 billion in the bank or whatever, well, maybe not in the bank, but that was being owed to the IRS, because I used pretty much the same guidelines they gave, the same types of penalties, the same types of compounded interest, and all that, plus fees, okay? How much do you think that's going to be? Well, my friends, once it comes in, it's not for me. Sure, it's going to be mine, given to my hands, but it's going to be used to, you know, at least start a group of people who really want nothing to do with this world, but want a place where they can come out of the world and live by the every living word. Somewhat protected, but of course we'll never be protected completely. And our King points it out in the book of Revelation. The prophets point those things out. Messiah pointed it out in the alleged New Testament, even a lot of these things that we're not going to be protected from completely. But at least it's a place where we can come out of the world and have cleanliness, you know. And the first thing I do believe that I'm going to purchase is a bunch of greenhouses that we'll put around Lake Fort Phantom that I own. And once the investigation is done, that should come to light to where I can get it. But where am I going to get the $1 billion from, you say? Well, it's a default judgment, my friends. That's what courts are supposed to be for. This is why they covered up for this fraud. Well, not this fraud, but these many frauds to file this known fraud in the court. There were 10 affidavits, actually 11, because the sheriff of Taylor County that really wanted me in his jail because I claimed I owned over $1 billion and wanted him to procure a couple computers and a couple vehicles that I needed because the city wasn't paying me what they owed, and the court wasn't allowing me to go in there to say, hey, look, judge, it's a default judgment. What you need to do is when I bring in motions for you to put in orders of procurement to the sheriff department, you need to sign those orders until this bill is paid in full. See, that's how it's supposed to work. You go in there, you move the judge to have the sheriff send his deputy over to the city water department when everybody's sending in their checks to pay for their water. And the deputy's there. What the deputy would do is he would gather all the checks that come in and he would bring them and deposit them into my bank account. Same thing with the electric, same thing with the land taxes and everything else. All the fines for the municipal courts, the sheriff would go over, all the fines being collected would be mine. By order of a procurement, by and through the judge, if he was doing his proper duty and not abusing his official capacity, obstructing justice and or etc. These are RICO Act violations, my friends. And I showed in the original $10,000 reward to contact Elon Musk. Well, we don't need Elon Musk, hopefully. Hopefully ABC News, their I-team, will do an investigation on this. Maybe just bring it to light so that it'll be out there as an interest so that justice will come. And my friends, once we do get those finances, there'll be need of at least 100 people to start with. Just getting housing and such set up for others that are going to come that also want to live the same way we do. We're going to need farmers. We're going to have to breed cattle and sheep and everything. We're going to have to farm the land. We're going to have to put in many wells under the land that I actually own in Texas. Is one of the largest aquifers in the world. The only one larger than that is under Israel, out there where they claim Israel's at now. That's where this first largest aquifer of water is. And of course we'll have like cafeterias and stuff where it's more like on a military base. And I hate to use that for an example, but it'll be a large area where families can gather to eat together after they work. Because yes, it's going to be busy and working. There'll be different groups set up where it may not be like larger cafeterias or whatever, but maybe like a boarding house where somebody's going to be cooking and others are going to be watching over the animals or planting and harvesting. And when harvest comes, everybody gathers together, and they go harvest because that's what we're going to live by. And of course, we're going to set up greenhouses. I see it just perfectly in my mind. And we're going to protect our land and we're going to live by the every living word. People that don't, as we showed in the ecclesiastical video, we're going to police ourselves. And if a child sits there prophesying falsely, their parents are going to run them through or her through. So you can see we'd have to be out of the laws of the land, and we have to rescind from this nation because it's going to be a land that governs itself, and we're not going to be allowing anything unclean to come in. If it comes in, someone comes in through our lines where they're not allowed to be, they got a ham sandwich in their car, well, we're going to confiscate their car. They're going to walk out of there if they don't get tarred and feathered. The unclean's not going to be allowed where the body is. Of course, on the outskirts there, as we grow, and it's going to eventually, all nations are going to flow. Now, whether we're going to still be there or we're going to be gathered from there to be taken to where the 144,000 are gathered to, I don't know. I don't even know if this is going to come to fruition. And as I had stated to those of the news team, and I probably used, the wrong verbiage when I said I don't know if, allow me to get this gender, and then I put tender, I meant to say gender correct. And I was going to say, you know, because I don't think they had the something started with B and ends with da dolces, you know, ba dolces or whatever. I didn't think but I wanted to be gender correct because there's others that may not have certain things. So I said, I don't believe y'all have the intestinal fortitude. See, now, everybody's got an intestine. And I just don't believe that ABC 7 News will have the intestinal fortitude to run this investigation. I do not believe y'all have the intestinal fortitude to investigate this. And hey, due to your offer, I made a quick addendum to the $10,000 offer reward that is in the link below. And then I show where I made the addendum up here, right over there in the description of this, because it hit me as soon as I seen the offer with the Batmobile there, you know, where they did the investigation and asked for new stories. And I saw at that moment I had to contact these people because it would make a great video if they don't comment, and I could show you how invisible hands are behind everything. When this here news story, okay, about little old me, moi, if they put it out there, this might go worldwide, you know. It might be something of great interest how corrupt the ground roots level is in America today. No wonder those at the top think they can get away with anything they want as well. It's not going to stay that way, my friends. In fact, as showed before, but I didn't get into, was here in Enoch 2. It says, be hopeful, because formerly you find a way through evil and toil. But now you shall shine like the lights of heaven, and you shall be seen. How many times have I told you? I bring videos and everything, but unless my king is calling you or allowing you to see, you can't even come to our king's channel to watch this video. But the time's coming soon. They're going to see me, and the windows of heaven shall be open for me. It says, my cry shall be heard. Then verse 3 of 104 says, cry for judgment, and it shall appear for you. For all your tribulation shall be demanded for investigation from the responsible authorities, from everyone who assisted those who plundered me. Now get this, my friends. 104 of the book of Enoch, verse 4 says, to me, be hopeful, and do not abandon your hope, because, now get this, and please remember, in the event that you did listen to this video, that I'm reading this in the comment section from the $10,000 reward. If you haven't listened to it, please do so, and you'll understand what Enoch's speaking of here, where Richard Sullivan took my 6-month-old Rottweiler back in, I believe, 1987. Because on February 27, 1989, Richard Sullivan came to my home in retaliation with a demolition order for an address that don't even exist. It wasn't my address. And he demolished everything I owned. My then pregnant wife and I were put out in the cold. February 27 in Texas. Yes, there's snow sometimes. And it's freezing. And we ended up living on a school bus after they took our houses and everything unlawfully, and nobody cared. But for him to do that was me telling them at a Board of Building Standards Committee meeting how Richard Sullivan burned the house down around my dog's ears. He didn't defend it. And at the time he burned the house down is when all of this blossomed out of it, with these invisible hands that I saw a lot of times taking place. But when our king showed me this in Enoch 104:4, when I first understood that I was actually one of the 144,000, that there's going to be, though I've been through all these tribulations, there's going to be an investigation from the responsible authorities, from every one of them, from the presidents all the way down to the governor, secretaries of defense, attorney generals, everybody in between, all guilty and all part of these co-conspirators There's going to be investigation from all those who plundered me. And I was told, be hopeful and do not abandon your hope. Why? Because there shall be a fire for you. Okay, there was a fire for me. And now hopefully ABC 7 News I-Team will investigate, at least do the story so people can see. And who knows, maybe more will come to our King's channel, and then that might even grieve me a bit there too, because at this time I can answer everybody's comment, and I do. And I love y'all dearly. And hopefully once getting paid and we acquire some property, I'll be having some of y'all moving to help me, because we got a large work, my friends, to get going here. And anyone that comes early, with a desire to get out of this world and to keep the, give or take, 613 laws that only define how to keep the 10 Commandments, and that's just the laws that apply to you. And us all working together. There's carpenters, there's farmers, there's engineers, and all sorts of people, cooks and chefs and everything, that want to leave and want to serve what the government's going to be as a family, my friends. It's a family-owned business is what this money that comes to me in the land and everything else is going to be used for. A family-run business. You work, you eat, okay? And there'll be time for some play, but not very much, I'll tell you. There's going to be a number no man can count, and they're going to come here totally ignorant of everything that's true. And we've got to help them unlearn everything they learned so we could be one, a unity, with none of the doctrines of the devils on us. Well, I hope that y'all can see this. Pray for it, I pray. And put the word out. If you're responsible to having somebody actually start an investigation that brings forth a remedy, to where they do recognize that I actually do. And there's many people needing to be in prison, public servants and others. They knew who burned my church and domicile down. They knew who burned my vehicle up with it. They saw him light the flame. His name is known. I knew who he was sitting in my solitary confinement when they came to tell me that I lost everything again to fire. I told them who did it. And the guy just looked at me like he saw a ghost. And he says, why you say that? And I told him, it's not for you to know. I know. I was told. Well, nobody's been in your cell. It's like, well, as far as you know, nobody's been there. But how would I know these things? I said, yeah, Terry burned it down. Eob. He torched it, and he was seen, and it was reported, and yet you won't even find in the Abilene Reporter News or anywhere else from I searched out. It wasn't on local news. It wasn't on paper news. It wasn't on radio news. It wasn't on any news that I know of that my church and my house and my vehicle was burned up even. Didn't even make the news. How do you do that, my friends? I'll tell you. Conspiracy. And if you pray hard enough, maybe our King will open up the eyes of ABC 7 News to where they can run an investigation. And who knows, we may be able to escape this world while waiting till me and my other 143,999 brothers get sealed. Wouldn't it be a whole lot better to live where people love each other? And of course, love is that we keep his commandments. And we'd have peace, my friends. I want you to be my brothers and sisters. Come, know my righteous King. And the only way you can come to know him, as it says in 1 Yachanan 2:3, it says, now by this we know that we know him, if we keep his commandments. And then it says the next verse, and this is a man that dined with our true Messiah, sat at his table, walked with him, talked with him, was there on the day of Pentecost when the Holy Spirit was poured out on all of them. It wasn't just a little bit that they got when Messiah, breathed Holy Spirit on them. They didn't have the fullness yet at that time, but they sure did when everyone thought that Kepha was drunk. But it says here in 1 Yachanan 2 verse 4, he who says, I know him. Now by this we know that we know him if we keep his commandments. He who says, I know him, and does not keep his commandments, well, guess what, my friend? You're a liar, and the truth, the light, love, the way. Now the truth is not in him. This word truth you could substitute for light, for love, and for law as well. And then it says in verse 5, but whoever keeps his word, if you live by the every living word, and the give or take 613 commandments, all 613 laws in those commandments are parts of this word. If you keep his word, if you keep those commandments, truly the love of Yahweh is perfected in you. So if you keep the commandments and you're keeping Matthew, Matthew 5, the very last verse where it says, be ye perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. If you keep the commandments, it shows you right here. But whoever keeps his word, his every living word, truly the love of Yahweh is perfected in him or her. By this we know that we are in him. And that's the whole purpose, my friends, from what I see, from all the tribulation I've gone through, the courts and everything else that even Enoch wrote about. I do believe this is so that we'll have a place, at least to start practicing, before the 144,000 are sealed, so that each of you could have a more prominent position there, being teachers or even Baptists, learning how to baptize. Some who are truly filled with Spirit, to lay hands on these baptized people. There's a lot of work. They've got to be fed. They got to be housed. And it's stated whether it's going to be where this billions of dollars comes to play in that area, or whether we're going to be transported from there to someplace else that our King has prepared. I don't know. Maybe our King has this place prepared. He was my attorney in these courts and everything else, and his invisible hands have been leading this all the way up to this, and hopefully it's going to squeeze out that pus, and we're going to get some remedy and come out of this world. What do y'all say? You going to pray about it? Well, I hope so, because I love you. Bye.